Hey everyone, I'm Jeff from Ballworks Entertainment, and today we'll be discussing the topic of black-eyed children. So let's begin. Brian Bethel, a reporter from Abilene, Texas, who had an encounter with two young boys in the movie theater parking lot while running errands, created one of the first accounts of BEKs online. Although there have been many other accounts of BEKs in the past, Mr. Bethel's encounter went viral in 1996, and thousands of people around the world have claimed of having encounters with BEKs since then. There are several different descriptions of BEKs, but the most common is that they usually dress in dark or drab clothing. Also, they have been described as being very pale white or olive skinned, and in some cases their veins could be seen. Then they are said to speak with a monotone voice along with blank expressions on their faces. Furthermore, they seem to be very practiced or scripted when they try to coerce the victims and giving them a ride or asking to be let in your house. And when you don't give them a ride or let them in the house, they become very aggressive and angry. Finally, the feelings of people who have encountered BEKs is an instant state of fear and despair while feeling like they are being stalked like prey after gazing into their soulless black eyes. I'm going to read a story that has been posted on Reddit, and I have not edited this story in any way. This story is called Halloween by Sarah Beth 11. This is so funny. I'd never heard of BEKs before my incident, so I came on here to post my story, and the first story I see is about a BEK. Weird. Let me preface this by saying I'm by no means a writer, just a domestic engineer living in North Texas. Also, I don't believe in the paranormal, ghosts, demons, aliens, whatever. However, I did have an event happen to me this Halloween. I have to admit, has me scratching my head. This is my first post on Reddit, and I'm sorry to say I've never heard about it until yesterday. I told my best friend about my incident, and she's an avid reader of No Sleep, and she told me if I didn't post it, she would. So here I am. Anyway, hope you like. So it had been a slow trick-or-treat night in our neighborhood that evening, which is pretty odd in itself. We usually have kids from different areas dropped off in hours and have a constant parade at our door. That night, I'd say we'd had no more than 8 or 10 groups of kids come by the entire night. It was about 9:30 p.m. and my husband and I were sitting in our family room watching some of those ghost shows based on supposedly actual events. Like I said, I don't believe in that stuff, but I do like a good ghost story now and then, and it was Halloween and all. We hadn't had any activity at the door in over a half an hour, and it was getting late, so we decided to turn off the porch light and let our dog Chloe out of her crate. Chloe is an American bulldog and is very docile. We only put her in her crate because we were afraid she'd try to get out to play with all the kids, and I didn't want to have to chase after her down the street. Also, we didn't want her to scare any of the kids. She would look a little intimidating to the younger kids. So I turned the outside light off to let Chloe out, and she followed me back to the couch and laid down at my feet. It was getting close to 10 p.m. when my husband decided he'd had enough fun for the night and was going to go upstairs, take a shower, and get ready for bed. After all, it was Thursday and he still had to get up early the next day. My teenage son was out with his friends at the local haunted house and wasn't expected back for another hour or so, so that left me alone on the couch with Chloe. Now, just because I don't believe doesn't mean those shows don't freak me out a bit, and being alone now watching, I'd have to say, was kind of on edge, as it were. It wasn't long after I heard the upstairs water for the shower turn on when there came a light knock, knock, knock at the front door. My initial reaction was, what the hell, really? It's almost 10, go home. But soon an uneasy feeling came over me. Why the knock? Our doorbell glows in the dark, and well, without the porch light, it would have been extra obvious to anyone there. I paused. I couldn't really just ignore it. Our front porch has a big beveled glass panel, and anybody right at the door could see in enough to see someone in the family room watching TV. It would have been pretty rude for me just to sit there and not answer it. Knock, knock, knock. Again from the door. I glanced down at Chloe, and she was gone. My gaze followed her to her usual path to the front door, expecting to be on her way there as she normally does. Nothing. She wasn't there. I stood up to look around the room better and found her crouching by the back door like she wanted out. However, she never asked to go out like that. She always comes and licks my hand or puts her head on my knee. This was totally out of character for her, and I have to say, heightened my anxiety. "Chloe, crate," I said. She just turned back to me to look at me like, "Hell no, lady, ain't moving." I yelled up to my husband, but if he was already in the shower, I knew there was no chance of him hearing me. Knock, knock, knock. About that time, a car drove down our street and cast just enough light on the door to where I could see the silhouettes of two small children through the glass. I instantly felt relief. It was just some kids, probably a couple of my neighbors on their way home, and wanted to stop by and show me their costume or something. I headed to the door and looked back to make sure Chloe wasn't going to follow. What a great watchdog, I thought to myself, and she just sat there. When I got to the door, and sure enough, I could see through the glass that it was a couple of pretty small kids. A little late for such young ones, I thought, and I began to wonder about what kind of parents would let their kids run the street that late at night. I opened the door enough to where I could block Chloe's escape if she decided to grow some balls, which was only about 2 feet. What struck me immediately as odd was the kids weren't wearing any costumes. They were in normal street clothes. Also, no customary trick-or-treat either. I began to feel very uneasy again. There was a girl and a boy. The girl to my left was older, I'd say about 11 or 12. I could tell she was blonde, but I couldn't make out any distinct features, as our lights are from high above and on columns at the front of the porch, so most of the light was coming from behind them. I had not opened the door wide enough for any light from inside to hit them directly. The boy was younger and about a foot shorter, I'd say 8 or 9, and looked to have light brown hair. The girl very politely spoke up. "Ma'am, can we please come inside? Use your phone to call our mom." As she spoke, something in the pit of my stomach was telling me something was wrong. What kid even at that age doesn't have a cell phone of their own these days? I couldn't remember the last time I'd had anyone ask to use my home phone. Hun, don't you have a phone of your own you can call your mom on?" I asked. Things really got weird. Both kids turned to look at one another like they were going to say something to one another, but neither ever spoke. They both turned back to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my cell phone battery doesn't have any charge in it. Can we please come inside and call our mother? We're alone out here and my brother is scared." I have to admit there were two competing feelings going on inside me. First, that of a mother's heart that wanted to help these two small children get to their mom. The other, a sinking fear in my gut that was keeping the other feeling at bay. It was then I noticed that during the short conversation I'd already opened the door a few extra inches, which I was completely unaware of. I stopped. "Honey, why don't you give me your mother's number and I can call her myself?" Another pause, and they again looked at one another. After a short moment, they turned back to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my brother has to use your bathroom. Can we please come inside while you call our mom?" And with that last statement, the little girl moved closer toward the door like she was going to just walk on in by me. As she did, she stepped into the light coming inside the house, and I got my first real good look at her. Solid jet black eyes. That's all I could see. That motherly instinct was gone and replaced by terror I don't think I've ever felt in my life. I could feel every hair on my arms and back of my neck standing at attention. I closed the door to where just my face was able to stick out. The little girl stopped and again pleaded, "Please, ma'am, we're really scared and alone out here. We have to come inside. Please help us." Then, like on cue, both kids began to whimper and cry. That's when the fear took over, and I shut and locked the door. "I'll call your mom if you give me your number," I shouted through the door, "but I'm not letting you in my house." I could still see them stand there on the porch, just staring at me through the beveled glass pane. Part of me wanted to run upstairs to my husband, but the bigger part didn't want to lose track of where they were. That would have freaked me out even more to not know where they were. After what seemed like forever, but probably only a few seconds, I decided I'd call my neighbor that lives across the street. As I made my way to the side table by our couch to my phone, I glanced at the back door. Chloe was nowhere to be found. We later found her in the guest room under the bed. When I got to my phone and started to look for his contact info, It was only then the kids stepped away from the door and began to walk to the street. As they did, I walked to the door to get a better look to see where they went, still not calling my neighbor. If you get close enough to the glass, you can see out enough to make out people's shape, but you can see much detail. Of course, standing that close to the door would make you pretty obvious to anyone outside looking in. From the door, I could see the kids were still standing under the street lamp nearest my house, staring at me. As I lifted the phone to my ear after calling, only then did the kids start walking down our street. I met my neighbor out under the lamp once he was out there, but the kids were nowhere to be seen. Like I said, I don't believe in any of this stuff, and I never even heard about black-eyed kids before talking to my friend. What I have to think, is that these kids were just out yanking people's chains on Halloween night. But I will say this for them: they were good, really good at it. They scared the S out of me and my dog. This story is just one of many from people around the world that have described their frightening encounters with black-eyed children. Some skeptics say that most stories of BEKs are pranks because anyone could just buy black contact lenses, but fail to mention that Mr. Bethel described BEKs before full black contacts were available to the public, and only Hollywood would have had access to them at the time, and they were very expensive as well. Also, BEKs have been reported going back decades before this incident. So we have to ask ourselves, what are they? Are they ghosts, demons, hybrid beings, or just a hoax? So review the evidence yourself and make your own judgment about them. I hope you enjoyed the story, and until next time, this is Jeff from Ballworks Entertainment signing off.